Let's get straight to the point. Number 8. The man who conquered the sky with pudding. Imagine realizing that your entire financial future lies in the discount dairy aisle. In 1999, civil engineer David Phillips spotted a promotion on Healthy Choice products. Send 10 barcodes, get 500 airline miles. Most people saw a coupon. David saw a glitch. He found pudding cups selling for just 25 cents. He did the math that the marketing team forgot. For every $2.50 spent on chocolate sludge, he earned a flight worth hundreds. David bought 12,150 cups, loading his minivan until the suspension groaned under the sheer mass. Realizing peeling labels would take weeks, he donated the pudding to the Salvation Army in exchange for them removing the barcodes. It was a masterclass in leverage, a tax deduction plus free labor. He spent $3,000 to earn 1.2 million miles, a return on investment of 4,900%. That is enough distance to circle the Earth 48 times. He achieved lifetime gold status essentially by purchasing enough processed sugar to induce a coma. The airline closed the loophole immediately, proving corporations love loyalty only until you use basic math against them.
Number 7. The students who turned the lottery into an ATM. We all know the lottery is statistically a tax on people who are bad at math. But for a group of MIT students, it became a private scholarship fund sponsored by the state of Massachusetts. In 2005, they analyzed a game called Cash Windfall and found a fatal structural flaw. Unlike normal lotteries where the pot grows forever, this one had a roll-down mechanism. If the jackpot hit $2 million and no one won, the cash didn't vanish, it flooded the lower prize tiers. The students calculated that during these specific weeks, the expected value of a $2 ticket jumped to roughly $2.53. This wasn't gambling, it was arbitrage. It was like buying dollar bills for 80 cents. They mobilized like a military unit, spending days standing at convenience store counters, feeding machines until their fingers blistered. They processed over 300,000 tickets, turning the local 7-Eleven into a high-frequency trading floor. They walked away with nearly $8 million in profit. The state launched a massive investigation, desperate to find fraud, but found nothing. The students had simply read the rules better than the people who wrote them. The game was canceled because the house only likes math when it works in their favor.
Number 6. The man who treated a Boeing 747 like an Uber. In the early 1980s, American Airlines was desperate for quick cash. So they offered a deal that sounds insane today. An unlimited, lifetime first-class pass for $250,000. They calculated the actuarial risk based on normal human behavior. Then they met Stephen Rothstein. Stephen didn't just fly, he essentially moved into the troposphere. He treated international travel with the casual energy of a bus ride. He would fly to London just to grab a sandwich and fly back the same day. He booked seats for Bag Rothstein, his luggage, just to ensure extra leg room. Over 20 years, he flew 30 million miles, costing the airline an estimated $21 million. That is not a passenger. That is a parasitic organism feeding on jet fuel and warm nuts. The airline grew so desperate, they formed a revenue integrity unit specifically to spy on him. They finally canceled his pass in 2008, accusing him of fraud for booking flights for strangers. Stephen sued, arguing that unlimited usually means without limits. It serves as a reminder to corporations, never sell infinity to a man who has infinite free time to use it.
Number 5. The man who invented an infinite money glitch. Most people work for money, but a few geniuses realized you could just buy it. In 2008, the U.S. Mint faced a problem. Nobody wanted their new $1 presidential coins. To boost circulation, they sold the coins online at face value. $1 costs exactly $1, with completely free shipping. Enter the travel hackers. They realized they could buy $5,000 worth of coins using a credit card that offered cashback or airline miles. The Mint would ship heavy boxes of legal tender to their doorsteps for free. The hackers would simply drive the coins to the bank,
deposit them, and use that money to immediately pay off the credit card bill. The net cost was zero, but the rewards were massive. Some people moved millions of dollars this way, effectively printing free vacations. It was a perpetual motion machine of finance, fueled by the government's desperation. The only victims were the postal workers who developed chronic back pain hauling tons of copper-nickel alloy. The mint eventually shut it down, realizing that selling money at cost to people who understand credit card terms better than the Treasury was a terrible business model.
Number 4. The man who memorized randomness. In 1984, Michael Larson, an unemployed ice cream driver, walked onto the set of Press Your Luck. The game featured a flashing board where contestants yelled, "Stop!" to win cash or hit a whammy, which erased their bank. CBS engineers claimed the board was random. Larson, having analyzed VCR tapes for months, knew that was statistically false. The board didn't use a true random number generator. It cycled through 5 predictable patterns like a cheap Christmas light display. Larson waited for the specific millisecond where the board showed $4,000 plus spin and hit the buzzer. He did this 40 consecutive times. The control room devolved into chaos. Executives were convinced he was cheating, perhaps using magnets or a hidden device. He wasn't. He just weaponized boredom. He played for so long that the host, Peter Tamarkin, physically exhausted, begged him to stop. Larson walked away with $110,237. CBS paid him, but immediately recoded the board. They learned the hard way that if you broadcast a puzzle to millions of people, someone weird enough will eventually solve it.
Number 3. The man who negotiated the house edge into oblivion. Casinos are effectively cathedrals built to worship the law of large numbers. They are statistically guaranteed to win over time. But in 2011, Don Johnson exploited the one weakness casinos have: their own arrogance. Atlantic City was desperate for high rollers, so Johnson agreed to play, but only if they modified the physics of the game. He demanded specific rule changes and a loss rebate of 20%, meaning if he lost $1 million, he only owed $800K. The executives, blinded by greed, agreed. They assumed he was a typical gambler relying on gut instinct. He wasn't. He played mathematically perfect blackjack. Combined with the rebate, the expected value flipped entirely in his favor. Scientifically speaking, he wasn't gambling. He was grinding a positive feedback loop. It was like playing a game where heads pays $1, but tails only costs 80 cents. He drained $15 million from 3 casinos. The Tropicana lost so much money in one night, they fired their CEO. Johnson proved that the only way to beat the house is to make them sign a contract that guarantees they lose.
Number 2. The race car that was actually a vacuum cleaner. Formula One rulebooks are thick enough to stop bullets. But in 1978, designer Gordon Murray treated the regulations like a creative writing prompt. The rules explicitly banned movable aerodynamic devices, but allowed cooling systems. So Murray built the Brabham BT46B, featuring a massive industrial fan on the rear. When officials asked, he swore it was just to cool the engine. That was technically true, but mostly a lie. The fan sucked the air from under the chassis, creating a low-pressure zone that physically glued the car to the asphalt. It was the Bernoulli principle weaponized. Driver Niki Lauda realized he could take corners at speeds that should physically throw him into orbit. He won the Swedish Grand Prix by a margin so embarrassing, it looked like he was driving in a different time zone. Opponents claimed the fan was shooting rocks at them like a machine gun. The FIA panicked and banned the car immediately. It holds the record as the only car with a 100% win rate. One race entered, one race dominated, and then outlawed for breaking the spirit of reality.
Number 1. The farmer who made onions illegal. Supply and demand is simple. If you own everything, you set the price. In 1955, Vincent Kasuga, a humble farmer, decided to play God with the vegetable market.
He secretly purchased 98% of the available onions in Chicago, roughly 30 million pounds. He filled warehouses until they were bursting. Since he controlled the supply, he inflated the price, making a fortune. But the genius part came next. He met with distributors who paid him to hold his stock to keep prices stable. He took their money, then betrayed them and dumped the onions anyway. He flooded the market so aggressively that a 50-pound bag of onions became cheaper than the bag holding them. Farmers went bankrupt, dumping rotting vegetables into the Chicago River. Kasuga walked away with millions. The economic destruction was so severe that President Eisenhower signed the Onion Futures Act, specifically banning the trading of onion futures. To this day, you can trade oil, corn, and gold, but thanks to Vincent, betting on an onion is a federal crime. That's all for today. While you probably won't find a loophole to buy a lifetime of air travel with pudding cups, you can exploit a small glitch in the YouTube algorithm by hitting the like button. It tells the system you have good taste. Subscribe if you want to get smarter every week without actually studying, and share this with a friend who needs to learn how to read the fine print. I'll be making similar videos in the future. See you in the next one.